This is our presentation on the Amish Church by Anthony Osterholt, Emma Holman, and Brianna Tuthill. First, we are going to discuss the role of the church and community organization. The first concept we are going to talk about is Games. Games are the Amish communities, and each contain about 20 to 40 families that meet twice a week for church services. The Games are considered the pillar of the entire Amish social system. As they grow, they divide to ensure they remain roughly the same size. The Amish must participate in the Game that encompasses their home. These districts can be as large as 12 miles and as small as less than a mile, depending on how dense the Amish population is in the area. Games select their own leaders, which are all men. Within the Games, there are many activities that are held with the members. They all attend Sunday worship together, but they also attend every member's baptism, wedding, and funeral. They also have many non-church-oriented events as well. So the Game members actively participate in fellowship meals, work parties, youth group, scrapbooking parties, and barn raisings. Next, we are going to discuss the importance of church to the Amish. So the Amish believe that church is the center of their life and they are closest they can get to God when in the church. Going to church is a communal event for the Amish, and only if you are extremely sick or shunned then you're expected to miss church services. The church services are influenced heavily by the belief in Gelassenheit, which roughly means calmness, acceptance, and yieldness.
Another important topic to discuss with the Amish Church includes their leadership. The leaders of the church are very essential people. The church and their religion is what drives their everyday lives, so having great leaders is so important to them. There are 4 different types of leaders within the Amish Church, and they all have specific duties throughout the week, as well as at Masses on Sundays. Their leaders include ordained officials, who are the highest up in the leadership role, and then they also have bishops, ministers, and deacons. Some of their responsibilities overlap, however, they also all have defined roles to help impact the Amish Church in an influential way. All of the leaders are also men. We'll first start by talking about the ordained officials, who are also known as servants. They are the highest up individuals who serve for life. They have no theological training, unlike non-Amish religions, who require great amounts of training to become ordained. Their role in the Amish Church is to live a persistent Amish way of life. They are essentially the greatest role models for the rest of the Amish community, so following their religious faith, morals, and the Ordnung is very important to them. They are never ones to steer away from the Amish traditions. They make sure to not use technology, whether it be for farming, communication, or many other things in their daily lives. They are true examples of what Amish life should be like. These ordained officials are not paid for their service to the church. They must make their living from their day-to-day occupation. Being an ordained official is not their full-time job, but an extra duty that they take on top of their occupation. However, it is very common to receive payment in foods and gifts from Amish community members. Amish people love to cook and bake, and this is often how they show their appreciation for their leaders. The next leader below the ordained official is called the bishops. The bishops are known as servants who have full powers. All other Amish leaders are guided by the bishops. The bishops have clear responsibilities within the church, which include officiating baptisms, weddings, communions, funerals, ordinations, and leading membership meetings. The bishops also preach during Sunday services. As you can see, the bishops are the ones who take the most initiative during the Masses, and they have the most responsibility with different events like these baptisms, weddings, and other things. The ordained officials kind of oversee the bishops and don't have as many responsibilities with these events. The bishops also have a lot of responsibility about any changes that the church district might go through. It is often decided by the bishop if any new technology or new modern ways should be included in the ordnung. The bishops are often very cautious about making changes because all of the responsibility of the decisions are on them. They are the ones who can allow or not allow new technology to be used. They do their best to follow what is originally in the ordnung, but they slowly have to make changes when needed. They still try their best to steer away from any new technology since they are the ones who are role models and leading the church as well. The next type of leaders are called ministers. These individuals are also known as servants of the book. There's usually 2 to 3 ministers in each church district, so there are often many leaders in this group. They are the individuals who preach on Sunday services, so this is another reason why they have more than just one minister to be able to preach on their Sunday services. They spend most of their Saturdays preparing a sermon for the next morning. However, it's kind of different because it isn't decided until Sunday during the opening hymn who will give their speech. The ministers discuss quickly during the time everyone else is singing of who will give their speech. Because of this, each minister must have an hour-long sermon prepared each week. I thought this was very interesting compared to non-Amish ways because whoever has the Mass that day, whichever priest has the Mass, they know they're going to be giving a sermon. So they are going to have something prepared as well. Not knowing until the Mass, while others are singing, who will be speaking, it just was very interesting to me. Ministers are also one of the greatest role models in the Amish community as well and are very highly respected. They preach very important messages in their sermons that help steer the Amish's strong sense of faith and community. So the Amish community loves hearing these messages in sermons every Sunday, and they look forward to hearing new messages and ways to grow stronger in their faith. The next group and also the lowest level of leadership in the Amish Church are called the deacons. They're known as servants to the poor. So they are the individuals who help coordinate any mutual medical aid needed to help assist members of the church who might have financial struggles or other needs with finances. They create and also organize the alms for those with medical bills who cannot pay. So I think of in non-Amish churches, donations that are given throughout Mass when they pass baskets around. These kind of are the alms that the deacons organize so they can donate it as charity to those individuals who might have medical bills and different illnesses that they need to help cover. The deacons are also the ones who read scripture at Mass, and they always are the ones to recite the High German prayer that is given at each service. The deacons are also helpful and play a role with wedding announcements. So they help and assist getting approval of the young couple's parents. So oftentimes in the Amish church, the parents of both the bride and the groom have to give approval for the marriage of the two together. So the deacons are kind of the ones who are the middle person who kind of help talk with the parents and get approval for the young couple. There are many leaders of the Amish church that are of great importance, so there is a system that they use to determine who their leaders will be. They use a process called the lot, so both men and women from the district can nominate any male church members. Any member that receives 3 votes or more is entered into a lot. The average number of nominees is usually about 5 men. After this is complete, specific Bible verses are written on one sheet of paper and is placed in one specific hymn book. The book with the verses are mixed among other books that equal the number of candidates that they have. Each nominee selects a book and opens to reveal if there is a slip of paper. Whomever receives the book in which a slip of paper falls out, which has all the Bible verses on it, are then proclaimed the leader that the Lord has chosen. The next topic is about Amish church services and the characteristics of them. So there's many characteristics that go into how a church service is run, including the time of the service, location, any like equipment or special rituals used, and also what kinds of prayers and hymns that they use for each service. A typical Amish church service takes place every other Sunday. Depending on the district, some have it every Sunday, but most of them are every other. On a district's off Sundays, the families still often meet to have Bible readings at someone's house, or they also will attend a nearby district service. The church services rotate from home to home throughout the year. The services usually take place in homes, barns, basements, or large shops on the property. Most of them that I have researched, they have been in barns or the large shops that are on the property because that can hold the most people. The children usually sit with their parents during the Mass, while the youth are divided by gender and sit in a special section. The Amish services represent the simplicity of their everyday lives. Because of their simple lifestyles, there are no altars, candles, stained glass, no organs or choirs used in their services. They still sing and cite special prayers, but without any organist or any type of instrument used. Amish music and prayer is one of the most important parts of their Mass. The community members love to sing and express their faith and prayer through singing. The community members always join together in worship, singing in German, but with no instruments or any type of rhythm. They do it so often that they kind of become used to what types of songs and rhythms they kind of make on their own. Many of the hymns they sing are printed in the Ospun, which is known, it's the Amish hymn book. The Ospun's hymns have been written by Amish prisoners over the years, dating back to many, many years ago. The extended part of the service involves scripture passages and readings, which are read by a deacon, and then there's also 2 other specific prayers done at each service. One prayer is silent and kind of is more of a personal prayer that each member can pray on their own in their head at the service, and then the other prayer is read from a book. There is also an opening sermon, which is 30 minutes long, followed by the main sermon, lasting at least an hour, but oftentimes longer. The Amish worship services focus on commemorating the main values of Amish faith, which include humility, community, simplicity, and yielding to God's will.
The next topic we're going to talk about is Rumspringa. The experience for the Amish youth has several layers: psychological, religious, and social. It is a journey in self-understanding. Rumspringa for the Amish means running around. It is a period of time when youth socialize with peers. It typically begins at age 16 or 17, and the behavior depends on which group they join. Many parents wish for their children to find a good group so they do not have behavior they do not approve of. The Amish youth do not have to follow the order of the church because they aren't baptized, but many choose to adhere to traditional Amish behavior. Others experiment with worldly activities, such as buying a car, going to movies, and wearing non-Amish clothes. Rumspringa reminds the youth that they have a choice in joining the church, and many choose this path. This choice is likely strengthened by their willingness to obey the church standards and the church authority. Activities during Rumspringa typically include traditional activities such as volleyball, ice skating, picnics, and large outdoor supper parties. Most typical gatherings are singings, where groups meet in a home and sing German and English gospel songs for hours, and then converse and have food. More rebellious groups drive cars, have house parties, or go to bars and nightclubs in nearby towns. In some groups, the youth have adult supervision. In some other Amish subgroups, the practice of Rumspringa is suppressed, and this is seen in many New Order groups. A large part of Rumspringa is courtship. So Rumspringa is a time where the Amish youth can decide whom to marry. Most dating partners come from the same Amish affiliation. During courtship, couples may have contact or a hands-off relationship, and most Amish youths save intimate actions for marriage. Rumspringa actually ends with marriage, which signals adulthood in the Amish community. Next, we are going to discuss what happens if a youth leaves the Amish community. So during Rumspringa, an Amish youth might decide they do not want to join the Amish Church nor get baptized. If a youth leaves, they are not shunned because they have not made a commitment to the church yet. To rejoin the Amish community, the youth would have to join the church and become baptized, thus having to follow the Amish rules. So if this person comes back, but they were gone for a long time, they might be considered an outsider and have a hard time fitting back into the Amish community. The Rumspringa screens out prospective members who do not fit the Amish spirit by them choosing to abandon their Amish ways. Some Amish might say that youth leaving will keep the church strong with members who truly believe in the way of the Lord. Next, we are going to discuss Amish baptism. So the Amish choose to be baptized for reasons of spiritual conviction, and they believe that Amish Christianity is the best spiritual path for themselves as individuals. Other influence can factor into the decision as well. To be married in the Amish Church, both parties must be members, and this makes baptism a prerequisite for marriage. Peer pressure also plays a role, as one might be encouraged to join the church because another friend is joining. Parents also exert some influence, because most Amish parents are concerned with the welfare of their children's souls, and they hope they choose baptism in the Amish Church. Some background on Amish baptism is that Amish are considered Anabaptist. This means they reject infant baptism because they believe it should be a voluntary adult decision to follow Jesus. They also follow a liberal interpretation of the Bible. Communion services for the Amish are held each fall and spring. This is where members reaffirm their vows to Jesus and the church. During this time, they wash each other's feet as the congregation sings. Baptism is the most important rite of life for the Amish. Baptism signals an individual's confession of Christian faith and the willingness to submit to the Amish church authority and the org non until death. Most young Amish are baptized between 18 and 22 during a Sunday service after several weeks of instruction. This lifelong promise before God and the members of the community means that they will be accountable to the church for the rest of their lives. If they stray from the church, they can face excommunication and shunning. Out of all Amish youth, about 85% take the step to be baptized with the church, and women tend to make this decision at a slightly younger age than the men. The instruction before baptism are classes that the candidates attend once a year or every other year, depending on the affiliation. In some affiliations, the candidates will attend classes for baptism consisting of 9 meetings with the church leadership over an 18-week period leading up to their ceremony. So during this time, the candidates meet with the bishop and the ministers to review the 18 articles of the Dordrecht Confession. These articles describe worthy candidates as the ones who bring forth genuine fruits of repentance, amend their lives, believe in the gospel, and depart from evil and do good. At the last session, the ministers emphasize the weight of the decision and remind the men that if God calls on them, they have to serve as leaders in the church. Next, we are going to talk about what happens during the Amish baptism. So the day before baptism, there is a special session at which the candidates have a final opportunity to change their minds and not join the church. If they decide to still join, the baptism happens the next day. So during the baptism, the candidates kneel and renounce self, the devil, and the world, and promise to obey Christ and the church for the rest of their lives. During the rite of baptism, the candidates sit in the front row in a bent posture. This is a sign of them yielding to God and the willingness to submit to the authority of the church. So when they kneel, they are asked 4 baptismal questions. and then after prayer, they are baptized with water from the bishop's hands and are members of the Amish Church. When the deacon or bishop pours water over their heads, he stands then to join the rest of the congregation and is given a holy kiss by the bishop if they are male, or by the bishop's wife if they're female, and this means the individual is now a full-fledged member of the Amish Church with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. This concludes the end of the presentation about the Amish Church. Here are some references if you would like to learn more.